Greetings, cinephiles. Are you looking for a movie analysis podcast that stands above the rest? Then look no further than Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters.
We analyze good movies, we analyze bad movies, and yes, we also analyze the in-betweens of the world of cinema.
So if you like what you hear, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
And yes, my friends, we are 420 friendly. So when you listen to us, smoke it if you've got it. And now, here's a new episode of Collateral Gaming. The show starts right now.
Tonight, on the holiday edition of the bonus round, we are diving into our top 5 favorite episodes of Season 2 of The Angry Video Game Nerd. So stick around, the show starts right now. Welcome to Collateral Gaming Bonus Round. I'm Ashley Chancellor.
And I'm Bo Maddox.
And happy holidays. Yes, my friends, we are a 420 friendly podcast. So whatever you have, smoke it if you've got it.
Absolutely, and I'm glad to be back on Collateral Gaming Bonus Round to celebrate our post-holiday edition.
Yeah, it's kind of more of a post-holiday episode, but we technically never had a holiday episode on Collateral Gaming. Yeah, everything this season's been kind of late, but here we are. We're celebrating the holidays season by watching The Angry Video Game Nerd, as we have been. We do have a holiday special that's supposed to come out. I'd like to get that out this week, even if it's late. But for now, this is what we got. Last year, we did Season 1 of The Angry Video Game Nerd. So if you'd like to listen to our top 5 favorite Angry Video Game Nerd episodes from Season 1, you can go listen to that from last year. I think the year before that, we just focused specifically on holiday episodes.
Yeah, and that was a fun episode as well. I believe that there is a playlist on YouTube with all of his holiday episodes, so I highly recommend around the holidays to go and watch that. I mean, it's just classic internet, you know?
Hell yeah. And I mean, this whole thing started because, Bo, you, as we've mentioned on the podcast before, have sort of a tradition of watching The Angry Video Game Nerd around the holidays. So we've sort of brought that tradition into Collateral Gaming, and here we are. We're kind of making it a seasonal thing now.
Absolutely, and I mean, there's so many seasons to get into with AVGN. But his earlier seasons, to me, I mean, they have the best flow to them. Obviously, I mean, a lot of people, they tend to comment on the quality of his newer material. It's like there was an era where it wasn't completely up to snuff, but nowadays, it does kind of seem like he's going back to his original style. I mean, if any of his more recent episodes can be, we can glean anything off of those. So
yeah, and I mean, AVG in Season 2 feels very much like the Season 1 episodes, if maybe a slightly higher production quality.
Absolutely.
But in the interest of brevity, I guess we'll go ahead and get into our favorite Season 2 episodes. I'll start with you, Bo.
Well, my first choice is, to me, quite possibly one of the funniest concepts when it comes to AVGN, and also one of the funniest guest characters as well. And that's, of course, Bugs Bunny in Bugs Bunny's Birthday Blowout. Like, I mean, not only is the game just a very, very, awful platformer and everything, but he uses this to just bring in quite possibly one of his funniest recurring gags, I mean, we see the Bugs Bunny character, played by Mike Matei, come in quite a few other times in later seasons.
What's up, Doc?
What's up, Doc?
I mean, yeah, Mike Matei really leans into the obnoxiousness with Bugs Bunny. I mean, and recognizing rightfully so that that's kind of what Bugs Bunny is as a character. He's a very obnoxious, antagonistic person or rabbit, as it were. So, I mean, here you also have the fight between them, which is like you just see the nerd just kick the living shit.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a fight. It's kind of one-sided. The nerd is just beating the shit out of Bugs Bunny. And it's hilarious because throughout the episode, he even talks about, I mean, when he first sees Bugs and, later on, he's like, he sounds like he's excited to see him. He talks about him like he's one of the greatest cartoon characters of all the time, but he's just beating the shit out of him the entire episode, and it's great.
Well, maybe it's kind of good to see Bugs as a character hoisted by his own petard a little bit, Just have some of that bullshit kind of flipped around on him.
And it's hilarious, too, because it seems like the nerd is just, like, venting his frustration out of the game out on Bugs Bunny, who is just kind of sitting there just being obnoxious, but not being downright offensive.
Not necessarily, no. But I mean, it's funny because, I mean, he comes back in the Crazy Castle episode, which is kind of a whole nother big production, and a pretty big production for AVGN and whatnot. But here, I just find this to be a very funny episode. It's got a great dynamic between the characters, and, I mean, maybe, I don't know if the joke gets played out in later seasons, but the first couple of times he does it is spot on.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it's hilarious. I love the violence of it. I love how he does a fucking Shoryuken.
Exactly.
On Bugs Bunny.
Exactly, man.
And I mean, obviously, like any of the games that he reviews, that game looks like ass.
Absolutely, like unequivocally.
Also, why did the Looney Tunes characters like antagonize Bugs and like fight him and only to like show up at his birthday party? What a bunch of fucking jerks.
Saying that they were playing like a bunch of weird tricks on him.
Yes, funny tricks or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, funny tricks. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, we can go ahead and just kind of leave it there.
But did you have anything else to say about this episode?
No, not really.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's all, fucks.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, you can say that. That's all, fucks.
Moving on to my first choice, or I guess you could say my number 5 choice. I don't know if they're necessarily in order, but I'm going to start with Die Hard, which is perhaps a little bit more pertinent to the Christmas season, as Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Absolutely, yeah. So it only makes sense to go into the game, which, incidentally, I have running on my PS Classic right now. We have it's on emulation. And, I mean, from the looks of it, I mean, most of these old school isometric games, I mean, they can be a little tricky to really get into, especially on the NES, Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, a lot of those, Smash TV and whatnot, they were like dual stick shooters, That was the best way to do that, because you can, one joystick controlled your movement, the other one controls your weapons and where you're firing your weapons. Like another good example is Ikari Warriors. That's what that was in the arcade, but on Nintendo, of course, you have that limited control. And, I mean, you can't really do particularly great diagonal shots or anything. And this game, it really shows, like, big time.
Yeah, I mean, and the way that James describes the game is that it's very difficult. And I think every single time you have to start over. So it's just and you have to defeat every single enemy in the building, going up and down between floors, with a very difficult to control scheme. And on top of that, there's a whole foot mechanic, which sounds interesting in theory. I mean, it does kind of tie into the movie with the fact that John McClane, was barefoot the whole time, and his feet got beat to shit, and he had to walk over glass. But when in practice, when you make that into a game mechanic and you don't do it very well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but like I said, it's kind of par for the course with these old isometric 8-bit games, especially if they're trying to port from an arcade game and whatnot. So
I think what really sucks is the fact that you have to break glass and walk over the glass in order to progress. that's kind of fucked. I mean, if it was just kind of something like, okay, you got to watch out for glass once in a while, I'd be like, okay, that's an interesting mechanic, but it sounds downright frustrating the way the nerd describes it.
And it's a callback to the movie, of course.
Right.
But
it's an interesting mechanic, and it's a neat little, I think I mentioned that it's a neat little callback to the movie, but, it's not, yeah. What's funny is a lot of the things that he complains about in some of these games in a modern game seems like could be implemented reasonably well. But back in the day when you played a video game based on a movie, you kind of just expected to go through the action-heavy parts of the game and have a kick-ass time,
Absolutely. And they tried to do this with this game, but, the execution is a little wonky. But as far as the episode itself is concerned, as an angry video game episode, I feel it's kind of pretty straightforward, really.
Yeah.
As straightforward as you can get with AVGN.
It's a pretty standard AVGN episode.
Yeah, but it makes sense to choose it for a holiday special, like you said. Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, and I think I like it because it's obvious that, James Rolfe is a big fan of the movie franchise, or at least the movie that this is based on. Like some of his other episodes where you can tell he's definitely a fan of the material. And so it sucks to see, a game based on something that you really enjoy just not execute very well.
Yeah. And we do have to point out at the beginning of this episode, the nerd totally points out kind of an elephant in the room, which is the similarity of the title screen and the logo to 9/11.
Yeah, it's like the way that the Nakatomi building is highlighted. Looks like the Twin Towers for some reason.
It's scarily reminiscent of it.
Yeah, that's weird, right? When did this game come out?
I think probably a year after the movie. Same year that the movie came out, I would imagine.
That is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't figure it came out in 2001, but I'm just saying, just to point it out, that is a little weird.
Yeah, definitely.
But I guess moving on.
My next episode is actually the first proper console review that AVGN did, and that's the Atari 5200. Now, in the first season, he did do the Power Glove, but that's a peripheral.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember that.
This is the first console review, and I do like the console reviews that the Angry Video Game Nerd does.
Yeah, they are actually some of the highlights of his channel, of the Cinemassacre channel and whatnot. And,
I like the flow of some of these episodes because it's it's just kind of going game by game and kind of going through a few different highlights. What's interesting about this one is that he doesn't even really actually get into any of the games proper because he can't get the thing to fucking work.
No. And I love that he just went ahead and went with it and just took his broken ass Atari 5200 and still featured it and everything because of its, it still had historical significance, but also because it's such a piece of shit that he has to show, here's that big ass fucking AC adapter, that weird ass TV box that it clicks into, It's like, and then the fact that the goddamn controllers, while innovative, just could never work properly.
No, he doesn't actually get to play any of the games because the controller that comes packaged with the box infamously does not work. The trackball controller doesn't work for shit either, and even the third-party controller, which is supposed to work and advertised as such, doesn't even plug into the console.
It's like, I feel like that really happened behind the scenes, and he was just like, oh, no, I gotta incorporate this into the episode. That's like, I have to.
Well, and it's funny, too, because he spends a good deal of the episode just showing the struggle of plugging the damn thing in. And it kind of gets into a little bit of slapstick humor, which is nice.
It really is. I mean, this in a way, this is also the nerd taking the piss out of himself a little.
Yeah.
So, he kind of is just really struggling to plug in this stupid fucking console, and even saying, look, the only way to play Atari is on a piece of shit TV,
That's true, though.
It really is.
And he makes a good point about how like Atari games there was a charm to them in that you couldn't really actually like see things in detail. You kind of had to use your imagination in order to play them, and that was part of the charm of these types of games. And it's easy to kind of rag on it, but the Atari 2600 was actually kind of a hit and had sort of that feel to it. Unfortunately, the Atari 5200, in the words of the nerd, is a total piece of fucking shit.
It absolutely is, man. And I mean, I have good memories of the Atari 2600. My mom, that she had that, and that was like my first real console, my first proper console. But I mean, I never really got around to the 5200, and it's like looking at this shit, I'm kind of glad. I mean, I remember like in television and ColecoVision more than I remember this console. So yeah. But I mean, overall, it has a real significance for being the nerd's first proper console episode, and I mean, I believe that you picked one as well, a couple of them.
I did actually. So incidentally, my next pick is actually, and I kind of consider this two parts to an episode, but the Sega CD and Sega 32X episodes, which I kind of feel come hand in hand.
Now, I actually have personal experience with this entire setup.
Really?
My friend Joey, or Joseph, I guess he prefers to be called nowadays. He's if you're listening, hey man, how's it going? Like, hope the album is going well. But he had the full setup. He had the Sega CD, and he had the 32X.
Jesus.
He had the whole thing. And I remember sitting there looking at this thing. I'm just like, what the fuck is this, dude? It's like my 32X. It's like, why did you get this?
It's funny because it's like DLC for consoles.
That's literally what it is. And they were already actually developing a 32X console, the Neptune, that was supposed to be a little primer for the Sega Saturn.
Which flopped.
Which flopped in its own right because they did a really, really dumb thing by releasing it immediately after E3.
Man, how did that happen? Because you went from the Sega Genesis, which is still fondly remembered. Some would even argue better than its competitor, the Super Nintendo.
Well, what Genesis does, what Nintendo don't. I mean, that's exactly what they do.
But you go from that to this series of peripherals, I guess you could call them. Or like add-ons that are not standalone consoles to, the Neptune, which never released, and then the Saturn, which just completely flopped. Thankfully, the Dreamcast is still fondly remembered, but from what I understand, that was kind of an underrated release.
Very underrated. I remember the Dreamcast release well. I mean, it was an interesting time because it was an interesting alternative, too, because, I mean, the games on it were very playable. Very playable games.
I've heard a lot of good things about the Dreamcast, which...
Yeah, it had the first real MMORPG on a console with Phantasy Star Online. I mean, it had some passable ports of, like, Unreal Tournament and Quake and whatnot. Quake 2.
Fuck yeah.
It had pretty good... I mean, I think that's where NBA 2K series starts. That's where that starts, and that became a very classic... sports franchise. So, I mean, Dreamcast was a real jumping off point for a lot of interesting games.
But getting into the Sega CD, I think what's interesting about this is that the console touted this whole like full motion video thing, except it fucking sucked. It was this tiny ass little box that was surrounded by UI. And most of the games that the nerd shows off in this episode aren't really games as much as they are, kind of point and click adventures in between full motion video segments.
It's pretty much the Philips CDI effect.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And most of those games were pretty much full motion video games.
Well, and that's not to say that point and click adventure games aren't games, because they are, but I think during this era, that wasn't something you would have expected for a Genesis peripheral. And on top of that, I think it was that like a lot of these just weren't really all that interesting, and a lot of the gameplay was literally just watching these cutscenes that they were really trying to show off.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Sewer Shark, and I remember another. It was another helicopter shooting game where you were in these helicopters, and you had to. I don't remember what it was called, but you had to shoot down other enemy helicopters. I remember it being very difficult to control the reticle properly to actually shoot the enemies. So
some of the more interesting ones, the ones that look like they might be kind of fun, are the ones that are shooters, and even those just seem kind of blah. Like I've played something like this, and it probably doesn't even control all that well.
And interestingly enough, there's a game in this that he mentioned in this review, a Corpse Kill. I don't think it was Corpse Killer. Corpse Killer is another. No, it is Corpse Killer, I believe.
Yeah,
and It was such a shitty game that he couldn't even review it, and he eventually had to do a standalone episode on it.
I'd like to see that
because it was actually on Philips CDI as well.
Okay,
so yeah, it was a very interesting console. I mean, I remember it well, and I don't remember playing very many 32X games because I don't think that my friend Joey actually picked up any actual 32X games. Maybe Eternal Champions, but
I just thought it was funny, like seeing everything put together, and all three of these like actually had AC adapters, so you had to have them all plugged in. There was no way you could do it with a single wall outlet. You needed a fucking power strip for that shit,
and you needed another wall outlet, pretty much.
Yeah, because you got to plug the TV and the Genesis and the Sega CD and the 32X. I mean, how much fucking power are you using here?
And astronomical amounts. You're practically running 3 goddamn consoles at once.
And it's funny because the game library is not even that big. So imagine wasting all of your money on this shit just to play a couple shitty games.
I mean, seriously, one of the best games on the Sega CD is just a remaster of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Which,
Sonic CD.
Funny enough, is considered, arguably one of the better Sonic games. But, I mean, it's just like the diamond in the rough, basically.
It really is.
You know, and it's like you had to buy all this shit just to get it. You might as well just play the original Sonic the Hedgehog or any of the other early games on the Genesis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, man, that whole thing is just a mammoth, and it's cool to hear that like you actually have kind of a personal experience with that, and you were able to see that, because that thing just is a monstrosity. You've got this fucking mushroom shit on top, and like I just want to know how many people actually fucking bought all of this shit.
Well, apparently my buddy,
besides your buddy Joe, like
yeah, apparently he did.
Yeah, that's funny. Did he pay full price?
I don't know. Probably. I mean, his parents more or less got it for him. I mean, this is when we were all younger.
I like it when the nerd says, I paid $2.50 for this at a flea market. I'm dead fucking serious.
I'm pretty sure that they're a little more expensive because, the gaming market is kind of
nowadays,
stupid.
yeah.
The gaming market is fucking stupid like that.
I mean, we kind of looked it up. I remember looking up, how much it would cost just out of curiosity to get a CDI and be able to play that on original hardware. Not that I was actually considering doing it, but out of morbid curiosity, and I was like, oh yeah, that's unattainable.
Yeah, no kidding. And that was a machine that was expensive for its time when it came out.
Yeah.
So it's even more expensive now because apparently people want to collect shitty games. So.
Assuming that's around the same time frame, because I mean there was this era where they were really trying to push CD gaming, but it just wasn't there yet.
At least not on consoles. I remember on PC, full motion video being pretty on point.
Yeah.
But that was if you had a good, expensive unit, and that was back when practically to get a full computer you had to like do a credit check and shit, for the most part. You had to. That's what you had to do to get a computer back in the day. You had to you had to finance it pretty much.
But I like the way that he ends one of these episodes. I don't remember if it was the CD one or the 32X one, but he fucking fires an arrow and explodes.
That's the 32X one. Yes,
I thought so. I thought it was the end of the whole sequence because I thought that was pretty funny. Like he just has a bow. Is that just one of his hobbies? He does
probably
archery.
I would imagine. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah, it's a nice compound bow as well.
Reminded
Very
me of
nice.
what we did with Master of Disguise after we were done
Oh
reviewing
yeah.
that.
Yes, definitely. That got eaten by a lawnmower, and I'm happy about that.
Oh well, you're gonna be really pissed when you have to rebuy the movie for our Redux.
I'm not rebuying that fucking movie. I will pirate that movie before I buy it again. Absolutely not.
All right, but moving on.
Moving on. My next pick is Atari porn. Now,
The
here's-
episode that actually wasn't originally on YouTube.
No, it's on YouTube now, but it's been. He just had to fucking release a censored version of it.
Yeah.
But you can find the uncensored version of it on YouTube. It's pretty easy to find.
I think
honestly.
it's just not on his channel.
No, not on his channel. It might. No, I don't think that it's on his channel, actually. I think that he actually left it out of his Season 2 multi.
Yeah,
mix,
yeah, that's what I'm
he-
saying.
He left it out of that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
originally I think he only released the episode on the Cinemassacre website, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but it found its way onto YouTube eventually.
Yeah, people have uploaded it. You're just gonna have to watch it somewhere other than from the official Cinemassacre channel.
Oh my God, let me tell you. People back in the day. What the fuck were y'all on getting off to Atari porn? I mean,
I want to know
what
like
the fuck?
were these game devs just like really fucking horny? What's funny is that none of this really actually feels erotic.
None of it does. Like I mean, it starts off with Custer's Revenge, which I mean is an infamous game. I mean, it practically needs no introduction. Really,
Out of all the games on the list, it's the only one that I had heard of before and have considered doing at some point on the podcast.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's pretty easy to find a ROM of that, and it's very easy to emulate Atari 2600. So
Yeah, it's a game that's literally about trigger warning,
yeah,
rape.
yeah, absolutely, and colonization as well.
Yeah.
It's very colonial bullshit.
So it is it's a little uncomfortable. I don't even know if I could bring myself to play it, man. That's
I
kind
don't-
of fucked up.
I'd play it, but just for historical purposes.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, it is a moment in history. It's kind of like it would be
Well, I
funny.
mean, I'd play it. But.
It would be funny to find one of the original versions of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas that you can access the hot coffee mini game. It'd be kind of funny to unlock it and play it just for the historical purposes, you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean that in and of itself was a real historical hot point for video games. You know?
True, yeah. Yeah, and Custer's Revenge is just one of those, like, what the fuck moments. Like, you hear about it and you're like, wait, this existed?
It absolutely did.
And the dude has a full, like, pixelated hard-on and everything.
Oh, all these games, they have penises that are just like flopping with every movement.
What's funny is that all these games fail as games. They're very simple, rudimentary games, even for the time.
One of them is literally a Berserk clone, but it's like a woman, like if supposedly they're banging dudes, or the other way around. It's Bachelor Party and Bachelorette Party.
Yeah.
That's what they're called.
Albeit shoddily executed.
Very shoddily executed. Very badly. Or what was that one game where the naked dude is making a bridge to get to fuck the princess?
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah, what was that? And then there's that literal prostitution simulator. It's literally a prostitution sim on the Atari. It's like, what the fuck, man?
I don't know. I think the point of these games was kind of just shock value, just kind of a wow, like.
Well, it's like, yeah, look what we could do with video games. Remember, this is supposed to be a family entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, and there's the flip side of that where people started making illegal Bible games and shit.
Yeah, that's the flip side of it. Absolutely.
What's funny is that the Atari port is actually legal. The Bible games were illegal.
They were illegal as fuck. The porn games were actual porn. They were actually made by legitimate companies.
Anybody
and
could make
everything.
a game for Atari and you could play it on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly.
It was kind of an early open source model.
It really was, And now you look at Euro games now, and it's just like, Wow, it did not lead to great things, did it?
No, but I mean, who hasn't gone to wetpussygames.com?
I mean, you
Let's
have
be real.
but you do have that straight line from Custer's Revenge to something like Rapeplay, which is like absolutely egregious. Don't ever play Rapeplay. Don't ever fucking look for that game. Don't fucking play it. It's awful, awful shit. Like, I mean, Custer's Revenge is quaint compared to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this episode is funny though.
It was a lot of fun.
This episode was at least fun, you know, and it's why I wouldn't want him to do any more of those types of games again. Because, I mean, I do remember that. I mean, even back in the day, you could on Super Nintendo, you could get you can get like hentai image ROMs and whatnot. And you can look at hentai on Super Nintendo. If you look online in certain Super Nintendo ROM sites, you can find them.
Hell yeah.
But I mean, yeah, the early versions of these games were more funny than anything.
Yeah.
Even with the dodgy content, you know.
Right. And it's just funny seeing like his reaction to all of this.
It really is, and it's a damn shame that he had to fucking censor it.
I know. God damn it.
He had to release a censored version of his first season.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all because of the goddamn stupid YouTube algorithms.
Oh,
it's
fuck the
fucking,
YouTube algorithm.
It's fucking bullshit. It's like, I mean, it's why we have a cinema snob that barely cusses anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. The angry video game nerd cusses like a shitstorm.
He still does, but that's because he has that he has the clout to do that.
Yeah.
But it's weird because you would think that the cinema snob would have that clout as well, but
one might think, but
you would think, you know. But it's also the TikTokification of everything, you know, how, you know, people like to use unalive instead of dead or, you know, and whatnot because TikTok's algorithm is really, really weird like that.
Twitch too.
Twitch as well. Yeah, it's also Twitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, come on, y'all. I mean, I understand, but I mean, come on.
Come on, yeah.
Come the fuck on.
If you
y'all.
just have to substitute words, it's just stupid.
It's
honestly.
stupid. And it takes the impact away when you need to use them.
Right.
You know, even for important shit. But anyway, yeah, Atari porn, if you can find the uncensored version, watch it.
Thanks for sending me this crappy game. Coal would have been nice, or even better, a bag of poop. So thanks.
Hell yeah. Well, my next pick is actually going to be this episode's Christmas pick, and that's An Angry Nerd Christmas Carol. I think I actually mentioned these pair of episodes. There's a part 1 and part 2 back in our first AVGN Christmas episode list.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring this up because, again, it is one of the better episodes, in my opinion, because I like how, like, it's one of his more, like, narrative episodes or pair of episodes that they're just he kind of does a skit with it, and a lot of those ones are the ones that I actually enjoy.
Yeah, he was using skits early on, you know, a lot. It's something that, I mean, for a lot of people it's kind of fallen out of favor on YouTube with the review channels and whatnot,
And that's sad.
it is. I mean, I would say that there's some that do it better than others, you know, like personally, some of the skits on Nostalgia Critic is kind of eh.
But
to
like,
me. But
if we ever like
even
branch out
so-
into YouTube content, I kind of feel like that's the direction I would want to go in, and to kind of differentiate it from our main content is kind of do a little bit more skit type stuff.
Yeah, it's just that we need to make sure that we're actually good at it.
True.
You know.
True that.
Yeah.
But An Angry Nerd Christmas Carol is cool. I think part 1 is basically just a review of Home Alone 2. And then it kind of leads into the rest of it. But part 2 is where we start getting into, like, he does a whole Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future.
It's all Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
That's what it's all based off of.
And I really like that. I think it's really funny. It's really fun and interesting. you
Yeah,
know?
he basically did an adaptation for a YouTube review. He made an adaptation of an existing narrative. So,
Which is funny because in the other in our director's cut episode we're going to record tonight, there's another allusion to A Christmas Carol we're going to talk about. But
yeah.
I like how he even goes back to the past to play the shitty games that suck ass. No, we actually get to see a young James Rolfe, and what's funny is he's 100% like in character still. That's what I love about it. Like I'm like watching this kid, and it's like, wait. That's the nerd. Like a part of this character he plays is based on his real life persona, and you can tell.
Yeah. Looking back when he was a kid playing video games, he was yelling and screaming at that shit back then.
Yeah, and he was like, my first 16-bit machine. I was like,
It's like
bro.
It's like he's just kind of always been like that, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Nintendo 64 kid. I don't know.
A little bit, yeah. Classic internet right there.
But, you know, he kind of goes through different, he goes through the past, the present, and the future, and manages to wrap a few game reviews into it. During the present segment, what was it that he ended up reviewing?
Ooh, I'm trying to remember. And then the present second. I know that he did Home Alone and 2 in the first part. In the second part, I know that he did a couple of Wii games as the Ghost of with the Ghost of Christmas Future. You know?
Yeah. When we get into the future, that was actually kind of cool because he actually travels to the future, and it's like how he would envision like a future AVGN episode, and he's an old man, and he's reviewing the Wii as like a retro console and going through some shitty Wii games.
At that time was a contemporary console when this episode released.
Right. That's what I kind of assumed.
So yeah, it's him several years in the future, which is kind of in a weird way prophetic. You know, I mean, look at him. I mean, he's an old man doing this shit now.
Oh, it was Shaq Fu. How
yeah,
could
it was
I forget?
Shaq Fu.
Shaq Fu.
Yeah, which got a remake.
How did that get a remake?
I don't know. I guess it became a meme.
Yeah.
So
that tracks.
it's another one of those meme games.
It's like when Morbius like tried to re-release in theaters because of the meme status and then flopped.
Pretty much.
Why is Shaq Fu a thing? Like, I just have to know. Like,
because you just have to know how big basketball was in the 90s. Like, honestly, 90s was pretty much peak NBA. About as peak as you're going to get with basketball and popular culture, you know? So and Shaquille O'Neal was a huge part of that. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal was like he was like a giant in the 90s, you know? And it was because of his stature and his personality and everything. And I mean, here he got his own fighting game, and not a very good one.
yeah.
Not a particularly good one.
No. But yeah, An Angry Nerd Christmas Carol, I think, is one of the more fun Christmas episodes. In fact, I like just the whole like Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future skit. I love how the nerd is Scrooge. I mean, I think that's kind of fitting.
It really is very fitting.
And the episode ends with him like awakening back up, and he has this moment where like he experiences Christmas joy again, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna play good games," and he's like,
Play Super Mario World.
Play Super Mario World,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Nah, fuck that. Let's play some shitty games."
And then that's what leads into the Virtua. That's what leads into the Virtual Boy
oh yeah,
shit, I think.
yeah, he has the Virtual Boy at the end. I don't know if the next episode is the Virtual Boy episode because I don't remember watching that.
I don't remember watching that either.
but I thought it was funny. It's a funny little reference.
It is. It really is. But anyway, I guess my next pick is Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is really cool because it's a great tribute to the original John Carpenter movie. It's an awesome send-up of Halloween.
It is actually. In fact, there's kind of a cinematic quality there. It looks kind of like like a good fan film at parts.
It really does, and you have Mike Matei, I believe, playing Michael as well, and he plays it to full effect. Plays the Shape. He pretty much is the Shape.
Yeah, honestly, it's pretty good considering. This is a fun episode. It's kind of like a follow up to the Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th episodes he did in the previous season.
Specifically, it's the second part of his Halloween special. He did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Atari game, and then he did the Halloween Atari game, which is kind of an interesting game, actually, to me, because, for one, as a horror game, we see some early video game gore here. Mm-hmm. We have an early decapitation and an early... we even have a kid getting killed in this game, which doesn't even happen in the fucking movie. So it's like, holy shit, that game kind of goes hard a little bit,
It does. Instead of getting to play as Michael Myers, which actually would have been cool, you actually get to play as Laurie Strode, except she's just identified as the babysitter in the manual, right?
Yeah, she's just the babysitter.
And there's an infinite number of kids, and the kids can actually fucking die. The game continues.
Yeah, straight up spurting blood and everything.
Yeah.
Little old school Atari blood.
Man, that's hard.
Like I said, it goes hard.
Yeah.
For an early horror game.
There's a lot more you could get away with when graphics just weren't so in depth.
Yeah.
When so much was left to the imagination, it just felt like I said, we have those straight up porn games,
Exactly. Yeah.
That was something they could do. This episode's also interesting too because he doesn't just talk about the Halloween game, right? He also talks about another Halloween themed game. Which was Frankenstein's Monster?
Frankenstein's Monster, and also another, a haunted house game that was on Atari.
Where you play as, fucking Meatwad, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of almost maybe an early proto-survival horror, kind of.
Yeah.
Very early proto-survival horror, but...
And the episode's kind of framed by this thing where the nerd actually has to babysit some kids, which is an interesting allusion to to Halloween, mind you.
Exactly.
But part of me also wonders if maybe he wasn't actually babysitting some a friends or family members' kids in real life.
Yeah,
and
right.
Just rope them into doing an episode with him. Hey, you guys want to do an episode on a shitty game?
Yeah. Hey, y'all want to beat the shit out of a grown up?
And those kids have fun with it. You can tell.
Hey, if I was a kid, I would have. It's like, you mean I get to dress up like Optimus Prime and kick the shit out of an adult? It's like, I would have been down as a kid. Fuck. I would have been down for that. You dope.
You dope. And he makes them play.
That smells like poop, you dope. That's not chocolate. That's poop. It's like, they're very precocious kids. Even when he's playing the game at their house, they're jumping in. It's like, you suck, and they're literally smacking him and shit. It's like, holy shit! I have a feeling they got he let them have a little leeway there.
Yeah,
it's like, nah, fuck it, just hit me.
I think he really did, and I think that's one of the more charming bits of the episode. Is just that you kind of just see these kids kind of just get to be kids and
exactly.
Yeah, and the whole, like I said again, the whole episode is kind of framed cinematically, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really is, and I really like the actual scenes with Michael Myers.
Yeah.
It actually encapsulates his character very well.
Yeah, and if you ever wanted to watch Michael Myers play a video game,
oh yeah, yeah, using the wireless Atari controllers. Yeah, which is pretty cool. Ahead of its time.
Yeah, for real.
And everything. But yeah, I really like it because it's a fun follow-up to the other horror-based games that he did for his Halloween episodes, and it's even just an entertaining episode outside of the review. You know?
It really is. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, my next pick is actually this one. This one is kind of like my nerd moment, and I was really jiving with it. But it's the chronologically confused about the Zelda timeline episode.
Oh no, here we go.
So
here we go.
What I love about this episode is this is a pre-official Zelda timeline release. It's pre-Hyrule Historia piece of media that shows that the Zelda franchise did in fact have a running timeline. In fact, the nerd goes into detail, and I'm very familiar with what he talks about. I'm like nodding my head, like, yep, that's exactly how it went. Like, Nintendo, I know, hot take, Nintendo actually did have a running timeline of the Zelda series. And if you watch this episode, you can see that. There was always a timeline. It's just that Nintendo kind of always threw it to the back and didn't care too much about, game-to-game continuity and was willing to sacrifice that for, a better in-game narrative, which often was sacrificed to gameplay at times. But I like how the nerd just kind of goes in game by game, and I've literally done this rant on the podcast, basically, like the same thing, just starting from like the first Zelda game and showing like, okay, so Zelda 2 was a sequel to Zelda 1. Link to the Past was a prequel to that. Link's Awakening was a sequel to Link to the Past. And then Ocarina of Time is the prequel that is actually the backstory of A Link to the Past, telling the story of the Imprisoning War, and so on. And even getting into the split timeline theory, which, again, Nintendo didn't just shove that out at the last second. Nerds were arguing about this split timeline shit back in the day. I was there. And mind you, I don't know why there was a debate, because the split timeline was 100% a thing. I think it was confirmed in outside interviews, number one. But number two, I mean, the Wind Waker pretty much makes it explicit. Also, just conventional time travel logic. Come on, guys. There's no debate. There was always a split timeline. Nintendo added the third split later on. That's where they cobbled that together after the fact. Because as the nerd points out, it does kind of all go off the rails once you get to Wind Waker. Because yes, Majora's Mask takes place in the new timeline that was established when Link goes back to the past and prevents it all from happening. And we were led to believe that the original games were in the original timeline, the abandoned timeline. But then it turns out the Wind Waker takes place. And so then it's like, well, where did the original games take place then? Are they in the child timeline, or in the adult timeline? And then Nintendo after the fact was like, no, it's this whole separate thing. I think it's really interesting to see the nerd kind of like get into it and theorize and talk about like, about the series before that was established, because nobody really knew how it all fit together. And there were definitely games that were just kind of like, no one really cared. They were just kind of, yeah, this takes place at some point. It doesn't really matter. They're kind of standalone stories.
Yeah.
But here's my nerd moment. Some of the games do directly reference other games. So if you're one of those people that's like, oh, well, they're all just different games and they're all just retellings of the same legend. No, they're fucking not. The Wind Waker makes a reference to Ocarina of Time. They both exist. A Link to the Past makes a reference to Ocarina of Time before Ocarina of Time came out. Like, these games were connected. And I just thought it was cool to kind of see James kind of just go through that whole thing.
Yeah, I can't say much about Legend of Zelda and its timeline or whatnot, because I've never been a particularly huge Zelda fan. I played through a few of the games, but I've never gotten that deep into it. So this episode was a good little primer for that. It's a good little primer for Zelda lore. But also it's good to see that even back then, James and Mike, they recognize, hey, in the end, he's still a nerd. This character's still a nerd, so he needs to have a moment to actually nerd out about shit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of what that is. It's like, and there's a lot of those types of episodes throughout his run on YouTube. There's a lot of episodes like that.
Yeah, and I think it's also kind of cool how he even kind of goes out and talks about some of the discrepancies. Like, why the fuck did Shigeru Miyamoto say that Link to the Past was at the end of the timeline? We all know that wasn't true. A Link to the Past was marketed as a prequel. It only makes sense as a prequel.
Yeah, you just chalk that up to just bad memory on Miyamoto's part, probably.
I really think that's what it was. I think he just misspoke.
Yeah, he was just like, it's like, yeah, that's how complicated this shit is. Even the original creator is just like, wait a second, what here again?
Well, because they developed each game as a standalone game. First, they started with the gameplay, tailored a story around that gameplay, because that's Nintendo's approach with Zelda. It's always gameplay first, story later. And beyond that, it's individual story first, then overarching story later. So first it's, how can we make a fun game? Then it's, how can we develop a good Zelda story around this game? And then it's, well, where would this fit in the timeline? And I think it's obvious that they do spend some time thinking about where each game takes place in the timeline.
Yeah.
Well, most of them anyway. Most of the mainline entries, I'll put. There are some cases where it's like, I don't think that they really thought one way or the other about the Oracle games or about Four Swords, but
Hell yeah.
but yeah, I love his whole rant about it. That's kind of like more like my brand of nerd right there. It's an episode that I can actually really jive with. And another chronologically confused episode. I think last season I mentioned his chronologically confused about like sequel titles episode.
Yeah, and he did another one about Kingdom Hearts, which is
I got to see that one. That thing is a fucking mess.
I don't know where to begin with Kingdom Hearts.
And that's all Nomura.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, God damn it, man. I mean, how convoluted can you make one series be?
Jesus Christ.
But anyway, my final choice is the Nintendo Power episode, and that's because it's really interesting that here, instead of, taking on a shitty game and taking on a console, he's talking about a specific part of people's nostalgia about gaming, which is gaming magazines. For any of us that grew up in the 80s and the 90s, I mean, and all the way up until the 2000s even, video game magazines were a huge part of gaming culture. I mean, that was where you got
Power,
that's where you
Power.
got that was where you got all of your news about the upcoming games. It's where you learned how to actually play some of these games.
I actually had a subscription to Nintendo Power back in the day.
Yeah.
I think up until Nintendo Power stopped publishing issues. And I remember getting these once a month, I think.
Yeah. It was a monthly thing. Yeah.
At least when I was getting them, and I remember even like before I actually got into Zelda, I was reading about it in Nintendo Power, and that's kind of what hooked me into the series,
Yeah, man, it's like that's a part of gaming that I really miss. Back in the day, is all the video game magazines that you could get. You can get, official PlayStation magazine. You could get Tips and Tricks, Game Pro, Electronic Gaming Monthly.
Oh man, I actually remember all of those. And then you kind of get into like the current era with like Game Informer and stuff. And I mean, it's cool, but it's just not the same.
Game Informer is an industry rag. That's what it is. It's a full industry type of gaming magazine.
I mean, it's kind of basically the same thing. I mean, the format stays the same, but you kind of lose a little bit of that charm when the internet was just widely accessible. Not to mention that the internet just kind of disrupted even Game Informer, so to speak. I mean, because nowadays it's like, am I going to order a monthly subscription to a magazine, or am I just going to go look at a walkthrough online?
Exactly.
But I mean, the Game Informer thing was just kind of roped into GameStop memberships. I think that's how they kind of.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, a lot of people that went to GameStop, they were the ones who usually had the Game Informers.
I only got those because I was a GameStop Pro Rewards member. I think I still am, although I don't think they package the magazine subscription anymore.
Probably not.
But yeah, Nintendo Power back in the day was the shit, man. So I actually kind of jived with this episode. And what I won't be as in the know about, though, was just this era of gaming where like the internet did not exist. I mean, you just had to wait for Nintendo Power to come in order to learn cheat codes, in order to maybe even get through a certain part of a video game,
or even to interact with other gamers on a national level.
Yeah,
because they would have the letters to the editor, and that was where gamers could kind of sound off about certain issues that they have, or maybe even just share random, they'd even shit post kind of. Like there's that one which was just Mike Tyson's punch. Like it was a recipe for a punch drink based off of Mike Tyson's Punch Out. So they were like literal shit posting, or that one really like specific what was it? That one specific letter where this dude basically talked about how many different combinations of what was it like? In a
was it like Mario
game?
Paint or something?
In Mario Paint, it was like all these different color combinations that you could come up with. This dude actually calculated it.
This man was 100% autistic.
This was fucking pre-internet autism right here, ladies and gentlemen.
There's nothing else that describes this,
seriously,
this reader being on the spectrum.
And it's not a derogatory thing we're saying either. It's just very obvious.
I am autistic. So.
Yes, we have somebody who can actually verify that here. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, you could even shit post there. You can even send in jokes and whatnot. I mean, I remember even back in the day with Electronic Gaming Monthly, one of the things that they would have is envelope art. Like you could totally make fan art of your favorite games or whatnot, and send it in on the top of the envelope, and they would feature it.
Yeah.
Which I mean, as kind of. You could kind of see that a lot with a lot of YouTubers. I mean, there's still people who make they make fan art of their favorite YouTubers to this day. So,
yeah, but what was cool about some of these, about these gaming mags back in the day was that you not only got reviews of games that came out, but it was oftentimes your first look at a game where you kind of got to see what it was about. I remember back in the day when they released that pinball game Odama. And I really wanted to play it because Nintendo Power did like a full spread on that game.
My favorite gaming magazine moment was when Electronic Gaming Monthly did a feature on Tomb Raider, which was becoming a huge thing, and then they straight up shared the internet link to the Nude Raider porn site in a fucking gaming magazine. They gave the link away.
Based.
That was based. That was like the first time I ever saw any kind of Rule 34 pornography was Lara Croft on Nude Raider. And it was like that was back when they were making nude mods for that shit even back then.
Oh man, I wonder how many kids that was their first exposure to pornography.
Pretty much right here, man. Like shit.
But man, yeah, I mean, and even just the fun that they had, the Nintendo Power editors trolling the writers.
Oh, straight up trolling and people writing into them. Absolutely, just trolling them.
I mean, somebody was just having a fucking ball day with it. And I think what's fun about this episode is that it's not strictly a shitty. Like a review of a shitty thing. I mean, he actually has a lot of good things to say about Nintendo Power. And then, of course, he gets into, the whole gross out advertisements where it's like...
That was normal for gaming in the 90s period.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of those ads, and yeah, I think that culminated in the whole Daikatana thing where, John Romero is going to make you his bitch. It kind of culminated in that.
Some of this stuff is just like, what the fuck?
It really was. Man, gaming was a trip back in the day. It was a fucking trip.
But I mean, that's kind of what it was about. It was edgy. It was rebellious,
Absolutely.
Custer's Revenge.
Oh my God. Or Hong Kong 97. Well, I'm Beijing Tiananmen. Beijing Tiananmen. It's something like that. I love Beijing Tiananmen. But what's your final pick?
All right. So I'm going to go with the Spider-Man episode.
Woo!
The Nerd reviews a set of shitty Spider-Man games with the man himself, Spider-Man, who was played by Kyle, I believe.
Yep, Kyle Justin, the actual composer of the Angry Video Game Nerd theme.
Yeah, and they do a pretty cool bit at the end where the whole thing's a bit, but they do a pretty cool little rendition of the Spider-Man song at the end that's actually really catchy.
It's catchy and memorable, and it's fun as well.
It is a lot of fun. But yeah, this is another episode that's a little bit sketch-like. They do a whole bit with Spider-Man reviewing all the games with the nerd.
Yeah, it's not unlike the Bugs Bunny's birthday blowout episode.
Yeah. Not unlike that. Also, was Youngling actually a local beer at that time?
Yeah, that's something that we noticed is he Spider-Man rejects the Rolling Rock for what's a local brew, and it's Youngling. And if you know anything about Youngling, it's that's I think that it was bought up not too long ago, and it's a national brand now. You can find Youngling these days.
So I guess that was a local brew at the time. Where does he live?
I don't know. I want to say Midwest, maybe. I don't think he's in the Pacific Northwest. I don't think so. He's not in. I don't think he was originally in California.
So, he's in Philadelphia. Duh.
Oh, he's in Philly, of course.
We know that because he's actually filmed some shit. I mean, I remember the Rocky
episode. Of course, he's in Philly. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, shit.
So, okay, now I got to look this up. Was Youngling a?
Yeah, was Youngling a Philadelphia local brewery back in the day?
It is.
Oh, well, shit.
Pottsville, Pennsylvania.
No shit. So that was the first time that we saw Youngling was in the Angry Video Game Nerd. That is fucking cool.
Maybe not necessarily Philadelphia, but yeah, Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania. It's in Pennsylvania, so yeah, that tracks.
That tracks. Okay.
No shit. But interestingly enough, he only drank it for a couple of more episodes before he just went back to Rolling Rock.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool, though. You know,
It was, yeah.
like I did notice that in like a few like succeeding episodes, he was still killing those younglings.
Yeah, he was. And Youngling is not a half bad brew. It really is.
Oh yeah, no, we've got some at home actually. We've got this like Hershey Youngling that my dad bought. You know, because I'm back home for the holidays, and I've been staying at my parents, and I was just sipping on these Hershey's Younglings.
I had a couple of those because those are vegan.
Are they?
Yeah, they're vegan friendly.
Oh man,
so
I should have brought some of them, man, because we were talking about. We're like, man, we should get some Rolling Rock or at least some Youngling for this episode.
Yeah, but we got Busch Light instead. So I guess that's Texas shitty brew. You know, in general.
But yeah, the Spider-Man episode is a lot of fun. I love, you know, obviously Spider-Man is one of my like favorite, you know, fictional characters of all time, and just seeing the angry video game nerds take on some of these games. I mean, that the first game, was that an Atari game?
It was an Atari game, yes.
It looked like one. Where it's like literally just going up the building and shooting webs to go up. He doesn't actually crawl the building.
Yeah, and I think that maybe the Green Goblin is up there. It looks, that's what that enemy at the top of the building looks like.
Yeah.
Looks an awful lot like the Green Goblin on his flying wing or whatever. But I mean, yeah, that's a great episode, and it's memorable mainly to me for the song. You know.
Also, this episode was made to commemorate Spider-Man 3 movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So he was just tying into the movie that was coming out at the time. That's awesome. Hell
And
yeah.
he does end with a review of the GBA version of Spider-Man 2 movie game, although he doesn't have a whole lot to say about it, just that he doesn't like that, like, the whole, like, first mission of the game is just delivering pizzas, which is funny because the Spider-Man 2 console game is actually one of the better superhero games that was ever released, and it does have a pizza delivery mini game.
Yeah, it does.
But I can see how it'd be a problem when it's the first mission, and also it doesn't make sense. Like, you're just, like, breaking windows to deliver pizzas, like...
It's like, what the fuck, man?
Rather than just like a fun little mini game that you can do like in between story missions.
Damn.
But yeah, it's a fun episode. I love his whole like rendition of Spider-Man, who's just as appalled at these shitty games.
Yeah, no, like Spider-Man gets pissed.
He gets pissed.
He gets fucking pissed and fucking drunk too.
Also, I love how
pisses like a racehorse.
yeah. I love how like Kyle is just kind of like sitting there, like he's got like the Spidey poses down. He's like sitting there.
He does,
like how
actually.
Spidey would sit. You know, and they even have like he'll even have him like walk up on the ceiling, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing on my ceiling?"
Yeah, I mean he's got the web and everything.
Yeah, it seems like he actually like reuses that little bit of footage where he shoots the web out of his hand. But it's really funny.
Yeah, it is. It's a great episode.
Yeah, it is. But that's really all I had to say about that, and that's the conclusion of our list.
Yep. I look forward to next year when we do season 3.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Honorable mention the Ghostbuster episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had all of those toys that he has in that fucking episode, so that's a fucking big nostalgia trip for me. I had the Ecto, I had the headquarters, I had the proton pack, the gun, the ghost trap, the PKE meter. I had all the ghosts. I had all the fucking. I had the original figures. I had the figures with the scary reaction on them. Dude, I had all of that, man, and it was fucking awesome. I even had the slime that you could get. You could get slime for them as well. So
fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That and like
awesome shit.
You know, and you mentioned earlier, like at some point, I think we should like highlight that episode and kind of like talk about that and maybe the Ghostbusters franchise.
Yeah, it's a 3-part episode. So
yeah.
I mean, it's something that we could probably do a bonus round on.
Honestly, I think we could.
Yeah,
but I guess that's it for now. We hope that all of our listeners had a very happy holidays. I know this is kind of late. This is more like a post-holiday episode, and I do want to get that Grinch episode out this week, and then finish up Zelda month, which is now no longer Zelda month, but Bleeding in January. But we'll finish.
It's no longer bad movie December, and we have one more bad movie to do.
I was thinking about that.
Like, yeah,
we're playing catch up, but we should be done soon, and then Yeah, so stay tuned for, let's see, we did part 1 on Oracle of Ages, so part 2 will be Oracle of Seasons. So hopefully this week we can get both that and the Grinch episode out. That would be great. I'm not going to make any promises. And then get into our January content. I know I want to do a year in review episode on both podcasts.
Yeah, if possible, we could do that probably a little later on this month.
Yeah.
And we have quite a few things going with Collateral Cinema. We have our Director's Cut post-holiday special, which will be on another list of Adult Swim holiday episodes. So, yeah, check us out. We're doing the Boondocks, Rick and Morty's Anatomy Park, and Stroker and Hoops, I Saw Stroker Killing Santa Claus.
Fuck yeah. In fact, we should be recording that tonight. So
yes, right after
we're going to be getting right into that. As for our January content, what I plan to have out this month is our 2-part episode on The Witcher 3. This will be my first time playing through the game. I've never played through any of the Witcher games. I haven't even seen the TV series. So that'll be fun to kind of get introduced to like this whole world. I have played just a tiny bit of the game so far, and I'm impressed. And, you know, it's the type of game that I would enjoy. Open world action RPG. Fuck yeah, I'm here for it. And then this month, I believe we're also supposed to be doing our anniversary special on Collateral Gaming. So I wanted to do a 2-part episode on Fable and Fable 2. So if we can get all that out this month, that would be fantastic. And then we can move on with the rest of the season. What's going on with Collateral Cinema?
We will be doing The Wicker Man.
The Wicker Man,
very
right?
soon. We're going to do that with Dads from the Crypt.
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to be doing the Indiana Jones trilogy. That's going to be with Vern from Cinema Recall. And we should be doing a anime special with the Retro Anime Podcast on the Project A-Co series. So look for all of that and our 2023 wrap-up near the end of the month.
Hell yeah. So find Collateral Gaming and Collateral Cinema wherever you get your podcasts. We'll have links in the show notes. Make sure if you'd like to support the show, then be sure to donate to our Patreon. You'll get access to exclusive video game commentaries and movie commentaries. And also check us out on Good Pods. Hit us up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Interact with us in our Facebook group, Collateral Media Podcasts. And yeah, actually let us know, guys. What did you get for Christmas? Did you get any interesting games or movies? We'd like to know.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I didn't really get any games this year. I got you a game.
Yep, the Cowabunga Collection. All the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games on Switch. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. And I got Robert a little something too. Hopefully he's not listening to this before he opens it. I kind of doubt it. But I got him the Cobra Kai game, actually the second one.
Nice.
Because we went and we watched through that entire series when he was over. So I thought it was fitting. So I got my buddies some Christmas games. I might maybe buy myself something. It's kind of like a post-Christmas present sometime soon, you know, maybe just kind of because I didn't really get any games for Christmas. So, you know, maybe buy myself something. One of the games that came out this year that I really wanted to get to. I mean, Baldur's Gate is kind of a prime choice because it was Game of the Year, but I also really want to get the new Dead Space. I still haven't checked it out.
Yeah, it looks like a cool game.
I mean, I fuck with Dead Space. The first 2 games are incredible, and back when that episode came out, we were talking about like they need to do a remake, and then they did, and then it came out on PS5, and I didn't have a PS5 yet. Now I do, so.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, stick around for more content. Like I said, the Grinch episode, I'd like to get that out as soon as possible. If we don't get it out this week, I don't really see the point. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the plan. But yeah, guys.
Yep.
So again, we hope you had a very happy holidays and have a very happy New Year. We're recording this actually on January 2nd, so very fresh for us.
Absolutely.
We just we're coming into 2024 strong.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the rest of it.
Fuck yeah, man. Well, with that being said, I've been Ashley Chancellor.
And I'm an ass.
Shit pickle.
Gonna go home and eat chicken and rice.
Laters, y'all.
The angry video game nerd is here. He hates the games that stink. He knows which games to break. He just might even hate them all, 'cause he's mad for fucking sake. You better watch out, don't give these games a try. You better not play them, he's telling you why. The angry video game nerd is here.
Collateral Gaming is a Collateral Media Podcast. All music and game clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.